There are passages in a piece that just wouldn't work, no matter how you practice them. Then you change the fingering and suddenly it works like as if it has never even been a problem. In this video, we are going to discuss what you need to do in order to always choose the best fingering for yourself, which would enable you to make the most out of your playing and also stay injury-free. What's up everyone, Evgeny Genchev here, and you are watching Sweet Struggle. On here I share my knowledge and experience both as a performer and as a teacher to help you fulfill your music potential. Around the time I was studying at the Royal Academy of Music was a period in which I was really fixated on the topic of fingering. My scores were such a mess. Literally you couldn't see the composer's markings from all the options of fingerings that I had drafted on the sheet. At one of my very first classes, and that was I think music history, and it was led by Jeremy Summerly. Big shout out to Jeremy Summerly, an amazing professor. On a Monday morning his classes were like a breath of fresh air. So if you see him, make sure you say hi. Anyway, by now I don't really remember what was the topic of the lecture, but the question we had to respond to was, what do we look for in a music score? What is it that makes us choose this score over the other one? Many reasonable answers came up, but predominantly revolving around the topic of urtext editions. Me, however, not knowing any better, instead of keeping quiet, responded, fingering! If the editorial had creative solutions, then I would want that score in order to explore them. Everyone was baffled. The audacity! What is this Bulgarian doing over here? How could you not choose a score for its musical attributes? What a savage! Oh dear, oh dear. Not at all. Just a practitioner. People buy tickets to concerts in order to see musicians perform, not talk about music. But anyway, enough story time. During this whole process, I've discovered quite a few tricks. So we're gonna start on here with the fundamentals, and then we will dig deeper as we go along. First of all, as a general rule of thumb, the right fingering always is a fingering that falls comfortably under the hand. That means if your finger is already positioned on a note of the keyboard that you're supposed to play, then don't play it with a different finger. That would most probably just create tension, and it would put your hand in an uncomfortable position, or what we call a not pianistic hand position. Now, that being said, that is not a universal thing that you can apply to any passage, so use your hand. There are certain things to consider. Your hand looks differently depending on where it is on the keyboard, so there is no one solution. Which brings me to number 2, which is adjust to the location. Use that first tip and become aware of where your body and where your hand is. A passage or a chord may look very differently depending on where it is situated on the keyboard. Is it in the middle register? Is it at the bottom? Or is it at the top? Just because you normally play a 5 chord with 5-3-1 or 1-3-5, depending of course on which hand you play it with, or perhaps there is a particular fingering in this edition, that doesn't make it the law, it's just a suggestion. As with the first one, make sure that you use your head and observe your hands. If it doesn't look natural and relaxed, then revisit it and change it. At the end of the day, it needs to fit your hands. Number 3 is consider the context. What is happening before the passage and what is happening after the passage? A lot depends on the surroundings. Are you about to be preparing for a jump? Or perhaps there is a change of position or a quick shift. It needs to be taken into account so that you have that ease and readiness in order to perform the necessary passage. Number 4 is be consistent. Unless you're going for a different effect the second time round, then keep the same fingering. Your brain could get confused if there are changes, and believe me, a brain freeze is the last thing that you want happening to you during a performance. I've been there. It's never pretty. So say there is a pattern that repeats. It's a sequence of some sort. It is best to pick a fingering that then applies to every repetition of that sequence. Most probably this wouldn't apply for 100% of the passage, so in some of the sequences maybe you feel a bit of a discomfort. Maybe the fingers don't quite fall in the right position as we discussed previously, but still, even if there is a slight discomfort, it is for the greater good. Although you can see that there is a shift that gets quite uncomfortable, it is much more reliable in tempo to play the same pattern rather than having something different in the middle of the passage that would potentially lead to a car crash. And trust me, you don't want that. Moving on. The fifth thing that you need to consider when choosing a good fingering for yourself is what is the result that you seek. This may change in the process of you learning the piece, so you should remain flexible, but at the same time try to get as clear of an idea as soon as possible. Perhaps try it a couple of themes. Try it a couple of themes. Try it a couple of times in tempo. As much as you can, of course. Certain fingerings may seem very creative, but simply don't work when you bring things up to speed. And believe me, I've got a lot of bitter experience in that regard. So what character are you looking for? Are you trying to emphasize a certain thing? Particular fingerings will help you create certain effects. So please don't let your fingering limit your imagination and creativity. That's all for today, guys. I hope this makes you think twice the next time you start learning a new piece and write fingering on the sheet. If you do a good job,
you have chosen wisely.
It will make your life much easier. If you've got any questions or you would like me to go more in depth on certain use of particular fingers and what combinations you should use and what you should avoid at all cost, then leave it all down in the comments and I would love to cover these for you. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, smash it with these newly acquired finger skills, and I know you will do amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.